If you love real horror, mystery, and suspense stories, press subscribe, like, and share so you don't miss out on the experiences that will make your heart beat faster. Today's story will take you deep into the forest, where darkness and untold mysteries await. In 2015, I took a hiking trip into the woods a few hours' drive from where I live. The goal was to explore an abandoned forest fire observation station, a place where even going inside or camping is unauthorized, because the station was run down and not maintained. However, I knew from some articles online that many people had previously been able to get in without any problems. The last update on the station was 3 years ago, so I really had no idea what I would find when I got there. I parked my car in a small ditch by the side of the road, packed my backpack with 2 days' worth of supplies, and started my journey. There was no clear path to the station, so I used handheld GPS to make sure I was going in the right direction. But in reality, I was cutting through dense jungle terrain, never having set foot in it. The distance from the main road to the station took about 4 to 5 hours. The further I went, the more dense and rugged the terrain became. I hoped the observation post was still stable enough to camp at. Otherwise, I would have to find somewhere else nearby. Finally, after many tiring hours, I saw the station house peeped out of the trees. When I got closer, it was still quite sturdy. I checked the support beams. They were sturdy, then started climbing the iron ladder. Each step was quick, but the thrill made my heart beat faster. When I reached the top, the view was overwhelming. The forest stretched endlessly without a single road or house. I walked around the balcony and entered the station. Inside, there was only one room, about 15 square meters, a rotten bed and an old wooden table with rotten wooden windows stretching out. I put down my backpack, spread out my mattress and sleeping bag, and heated up dinner on the mini stove. As the sun set, I went out to the balcony to enjoy the view. Suddenly, a flashing orange light appeared under the forest. It was not like a flashlight or artificial light, but like a torch moving through the trees. The chances of someone appearing in this remote place were very low. I watched it move for a while, then disappeared into the trees. About an hour later, the wind started to blow hard. I went back inside. When I looked down, a figure standing under the station seemed to be looking straight up at me. I called out, "Hello?" They didn't answer, just raised their hands as if to wave hello or apologize, and walked into the forest, taking no light with them. As scary as it was, I believed it was other hikers, probably want to check the station. I went inside and curled up in my sleeping bag. The wind whistled through the window. The wooden beams creaked, making it hard to sleep. After a while, I heard the iron ladder outside the window creaked, steady rhythm. Someone was climbing. My heart was beating fast. I opened my sleeping bag, went out to the balcony. The footsteps increased and then suddenly stopped. I walked around the balcony, looked around. No one. Just seconds later, shadow of a person rushing past in the wooden path behind me. I didn't stop. Rushing down the iron ladder, my body shaking with adrenaline. Halfway down, I looked up. A face appeared. I barely made it to the bottom of the ladder and rushed into the woods. I turned on the GPS and flashlight, making my way back to the car. When I got there, there was no sign of anyone following me. I drove away, never to return to the station. A week later, I camped in a small, secluded lake. This place is not marked on the map. Only the locals know. The first day passed normally and quietly. The second day, when I walked around the lake, I saw new bare footprints on the bank, towards the forest. I didn't follow. A chill ran down my spine. When night fell, I lit a fire, sat and watched, trying not to think too much. Suddenly, I heard footsteps from the forest. 2 people came. When they stepped out into the light from the fire, there was a man and a woman standing a few meters from the fire. I asked, "Can I help?" The woman rushed into the woods, disappeared. The man followed, said nothing. They were not wearing shoes, exactly the same people in the bare footprints I had just seen. I immediately packed up and left. The journey back to the car took nearly 2 hours in the quiet forest without the sound of insects. Suddenly I heard a sound. Jogging nearby, then a few more in the other direction, all barefoot. I felt Themis following, but not knowing the purpose. Finally, I got to the car and drove away safely. A few years later, while travel on the west coast of the United States live in small camper, I had a similar experience. I chose a campsite on a deserted trail in the woods. The rain was pattering, the thunder was rumbling. When it got dark, I saw a reflected light through the car window. I thought it was another car's headlights, but there was no road behind the car. Around 2 a.m., in the midst of the rain and thunder, I heard sound of movement outside. Someone was running, bumping into a tree branch. I waited, my heart pounding, then heard male voice whisper, like talking to someone. Immediately after that, there was knock on car door, regularly, urgently. They called, "Sheriff Department, open up." I looked out, dark shadow, no uniforms, no lights. Deciding to take a risk, I started the car and immediately heard 2 figures ran to the car. A person appeared in front of the window. I rushed away. There was no sign of anyone following. I reported to the district. They said no officers were out that night. Since then, I have not encountered similar incidents. These experiences left in me haunting feeling, a vague fear of strangers in the woods, or sometimes, whether they are still strangers. Living people or not. I never go back to those places again. Chapter 2: The Abandoned Factory and the Mysterious Light. I never thought that a simple trip would turn into such a nightmare. One autumn, when the leaves were starting to turn yellow and the wind carried the musty smell of the forest floor, I drove along a side road, looking for abandoned places to take pictures and explore. I heard from some friends about an old factory deep in the forest has been abandoned for decades. There are no main roads, no signs, just a few faint trails that only longtime foresters know. When I got there, the sight before my eyes made my heart beat faster. Rusty iron gate, vines clinging to steel frame, broken windows, and inside, the darkness was so thick that it seemed to swallow up all light. There was no sign of the living, but I could feel a cold breath spread around the factory area. I bring flashlight, camera, small backpack with water and snacks, carefully stepping through the creaking, rusted gate. Each step on the cracked cement floor echoed hollowly, as if stirring the darkness. I stopped and listened. The wind blew through the broken doors, creating strange sounds like whispers. Going deeper inside, I realized the factory area had multi-story spiral iron staircase, long black hallway, and the walls were covered with old bloodstains or moss. I wasn't sure. The light from the flashlight cast long, winding shadows along the hallway, giving me the feeling that being followed. I took a deep breath, reminding myself that this was just imagination, but my heart was still beating fast. As I approached the upper floor, I saw an old wooden door peeling paint. There seems to be light inside, faint orange-yellow. I didn't hear any other noise besides my footsteps, but the light looked unnatural, as if someone was standing inside. I pulled the door open slowly, blinking into the room. Empty. There was only an old table and a few broken chairs. The light came from an old oil lamp on the table, but strangely enough, itself flashing. No one touches. I approached, hands shaking, and heard soft breathing behind. Turn around. No one. Only the hallway door shook in the wind, but the sound is the same soft footsteps, rhythmically. I tried to stay calm, reminding myself that mind is deceiving itself, but the body is tense as a bowstring. I decided to take some photos to capture the eerie light. When I looked through the lens, something strange happened. A blurry figure standing behind the table. But when I turned back directly, no one there. My heart stopped beating. and a chill ran down my spine from the nape of my neck to my feet. I took a few steps back, and the light from the oil lamp suddenly turned off. Turn off, leaving the room dark, with only the sound of wind whistling through the cracks of the broken window. With no other choice, I decided to deeper inside the factory. The upper floor connects to a long corridor, where rotten wooden floors creaked under every step. A few doors were ajar, and one could see through them. Darkness, and sometimes I see blurry object like person passing by. I can't tell if it's real or if the flashlight is creating an illusion. As I entered a large machine room, I saw a high window, moonlight through, shine down on the dangling chains and broken machinery. But suddenly, the light on the floor moved, like someone walking among the shadows, but made no sound. I stood still, my heart pounding. Footsteps very light, almost not touching the ground, but towards me. I didn't know whether to run or hide. Making a quick decision, I turn on the flashlight and shine it towards the shadow, and the shadow immediately disappear, only left the cold seeping into my skin. I took a deep breath, trying to calm down, but my body was shaking. I decided to leave the upper floor, but when I returned to the hallway, the door at the end of the hallway slammed shut. No wind, no one touches. As I approached, I heard small, strange laugh, echoed through the cracked brick walls. The sound was unclear, as if dozens of whispers blend together, making my mind chaotic. I realized I was trapped in a dark maze, and the more you go, the flashlight light is getting dimmer as if darkness swallows light. I decided to climb up. Outdoor fire escape, leading to the roof. When stepping out, a cold wind blew strongly, carrying slight burnt smell, although the long-abandoned factory was no longer on fire. On the roof, I saw a flashing orange light in the middle of the forest, a few hundred meters away. At first I thought it was the torchlight of a forester, but when I looked closely, it moves in an unnatural, steady flickering pattern, like someone is performing a ritual. I couldn't take my eyes off, but suddenly I heard a voice. Loud knock on the roof, like someone was jumping on each metal plate, from behind me. Turning around, nobody, but the metal floor vibrated as if it had a very heavy weight. My heart was pounding, sweat was pouring down my back. I lowered myself to the roof, crawled toward the stairs, decided, run out of the factory before you get caught in anything. Down on the dirt floor, I turned on the flashlight and GPS and start running to the car. But when leaving the factory area, strange light from the forest suddenly appear right in front of, a few meters away. There is no way. I panicked, turned around and ran the same way. The light move in the direction I run as if track every step. Everything gets chaotic. The sound of branches snapping behind, the sound of whispered laughter, the sound of wind whistling, resonate in the forest as desired, plunging me into darkness. I ran straight to my car, turned on the engine and drove away, my heart still pounding, my body shaking. When I looked back, the factory was in complete darkness. The strange light disappeared, only left thick fog and eerie silence of the forest. When I got home, I checked the photos again. On some of them, strange shadow appears, has human form but faint, unrecognizable, as if ghosts linger in space. I can't explain, and since then never dare to return to that factory area. Chapter 3. A deserted bus stop in the middle of a rainy night. I never thought that an abandoned bus stop can bring such a feeling of fear. On a rainy night, I was driving along a forest road in the northwest, looking for a place to stay for the night. It was pouring rain. The light from the car headlights reflected off the wet road, and everything around me seemed disappeared in the white rain. I happened to see one old roadside stop, rusty tin roof, faded sign almost unreadable. No cars were parked there, and all around was deep, wet forest. But I feel a strange urge stop. As I stepped out of the car, the rain falling on the tin roof made a rhythmic sound, but I immediately realized there was a sound of heavy footsteps coming from inside the station. I frowned, trying to see through the darkness. No one. I shrugged, telling myself it was just the wind or the things in the station vibrating. Stepping inside, I saw rotten wooden floors, broken chairs and tables, dusty windows. A feeling insecure flooded in, but still curious, I continued on. When I reached the information desk, the light from ceiling neon lights flashing orange and green mixed. But strangely enough, no power. I approached, touched the switch, but the light is still flashing on and off, without anyone touching it. Language step from behind rang out again, but this time clearer, fast, urgent towards me. I turned around. Empty. My heart was pounding. My body was tense. I shined my flashlight into every corner. Nobody. But long ball moving, as if someone lurking, watching my every move. I decide explore the upper floors of the station. A small wooden staircase leads up to the staff break room, which used to be old bed and wardrobe. Now only a few pieces remain. But when I got upstairs, I saw a half-open window and outdoors. The rain was falling heavily, but strange orange lights flashed from the woods outside. I pressed my face against the glass, trying to see. The light moved, as if watching me, flashing steadily. I recoiled and immediately heard soft laughter echoed, strange sound, not like normal people. It reverberate from all sides, makes me disoriented. In that moment, I realized there was a shadowy figure in the hallway below, wearing wet clothes, hair covered in rain. I couldn't tell the gender or age, but the shadow stood still, looking straight up at the floor I was standing on, not moving at all. I wanted to scream, but my voice was hoarse with fear. Quick decision, I back up, climb into the next room, but when he turned back, the figure was gone. Disappear. Only left sound of rain and wind whistling through the cracks of the door. Feeling of being continuous monitoring makes my heart feel like it's going to burst. I decided to go downstairs, preparing to leave the station. But when I stepped out into the main hall, the front door slammed shut, making a loud noise. I rushed to open the door, but outside, nobody. Only left train and fog covered the forest road. I gasped, trying to stay calm, but my body was shaking. Surprise. A loud knock came from the tin roof right above my head. Right. I was startled and looked up. Nobody. But the feeling something is watching me from above made me unable to stand still. I turned on the flashlight and shined it all over the roof, but saw only thick darkness, cold space. When I got back to the car, I heard a noise. Follow, fast, light but steady. I quickened my pace, my heart pounding. When I got in the car, he locked the door, turned on the engine, but the feeling still being watched. When I looked through the glass, in the dim light, I caught a glimpse, shadow standing next to car. But as soon as I blinked, that ball disappeared. I dashed down the forest path, not daring to look back. When I reached safety, I checked camera and phone. On some photos, strange shadows and lights appear, inexplicable. I did not dare to turn back. And since then, abandoned bus stop becomes a haunting memory. Never leaves my mind. Thank you for following this whole series of 3 creepy stories. If you find it interesting, please subscribe, like, and share the channel so you don't miss out on the next mysterious experiences. Each of your followers is the motivation for us to bring more suspenseful, haunting, and unpredictable stories. Once again, thank you for your support. And remember, darkness always has things that light never reveals.